All right, 2 Kings 18, let's call this one Purpose and subtitle it Recovery. Maybe even further, DoorDash too. Understanding that DoorDash, the way that we understand it, is you call up for food, it shows up. But there are times when God is going to deliver something to his people free of charge, but it's going to come at an additional cost that they don't always expect. This chapter gives us another opportunity to understand the way that God can deliver things to us free of charge, but with a lesson that reminds us that our recovery still does not come cheap. And so in this particular chapter, Hezekiah, the new king of Judah, is going to experience a period of success. And this chapter gives us only a brief description of what 2 Chronicles describes in more detail, and that is the prolonged period of success that Hezekiah leads Judah into. Understanding that in our lives, it's important to make the best use of the time while conditions are favorable, because the next set of verses after we see the description of Hezekiah's success is going to talk about how, oh, wait a minute, there's storm clouds on the horizon just north in Israel as the Assyrians ship them off into captivity. And so all of the time that Hezekiah has used to help establish Judah was time well used, because the weather is now going to change, because the Assyrians are not going to be satisfied with taking Israel. If they've gotten 10 tribes, they're probably going to think, why not get 2 more? And that is all that Judah is. It's a nation of 2 of the remaining tribes of the original 12. And sure enough, Hezekiah in his success has given them an excuse to invade. Why? Because the chapter is going to tell us that Hezekiah had restored Judah to a healthy enough relationship with God, that God was now helping Hezekiah everywhere he went. And so he is going to stop living under the conditions that the Assyrians had imposed on them. And so after they get done invading and conquering Israel, they're going to come to Judah to get what was theirs. And it's going to create a dilemma for Hezekiah, because once they actually get there and he sees the situation that he's in, he's going to realize, maybe I went too far with this whole success thing. And he's going to simply offer the king of Assyria anything he needs to just go back and restore the old agreement to where it was. But it's not going to work, because after he gets the terms from the Assyrian king and satisfies or honors those terms, they're still going to be like, we'll just invade. And so they're going to send 3 officials, one called the Rabshakeh, if I am pronouncing that correctly, to basically say, look, this is the situation. Whatever you once were, Judah, you're not that anymore. And you are not ready to deal with our army, and you are not ready to deal with us, whether or not the Egyptians have agreed to help you. Moreover, if Hezekiah is telling you that God is on your side, why is he only recently having to tear down the pillars that you were using to worship another God? And so basically, he is helping them count the cost in a viewpoint that is extra favorable towards surrender, because he is not simply intimidating them. What the Rabshakeh is doing is setting up the table for his terms of peace, saying that, look, you don't have to deal with the hardship of a siege. And he's going to put it in very raw terms, what you're going to be eating and drinking once we surround the city and cut off your supply lines. He's going to say the alternative is you can have your own vines, you can have your own plot of land, and it's not going to be all that unfamiliar with what you know already. So just consider the terms of peace before we make this really difficult. Sounds like, in modern terms, an offer you can't refuse. And so he seems really reasonable, but he is going to go too far, and that is going to provide a caveat, an out for Judah that Hezekiah is not going to see immediately, but it's going to become more clear in the next few chapters, as after the Rabshakeh finishes breaking down the scenario for Judah, they're going to simply be silent, because Hezekiah wisely has told them, don't say a word, because he understands the situation is not looking good. And with that attitude, in the next chapter, we're going to see him turn to Isaiah the prophet to find out from God what, if any, options they have. And so in the next 2 chapters, what we're going to see, once again, is the way that presumption often misleads both armies and kings that are about to fail. Since no matter how bad things look, God is actually hand delivering them a victory over the Assyrian army.